Greetings, everyone. The title of my presentation is "The Computer Must Have Gotten It Wrong." My intention is to indicate the existence and use of this well-worn excuse for the misuse of AI, including by law enforcement, which is why the media must remain vigilant amidst all the admiration for this new technology in some quarters. There's no doubt that the advancement in technology over the past few decades has propelled our global community into a new phase of development and has significantly enhanced the manner in which we communicate and share our ideas, information, and practices. For many users of social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, these advancements have allowed us to share our everyday lives with our neighbors and friends living in some of the most remote places on earth. The technology behind these social media applications have allowed us to establish and maintain critical avenues of communication, whilst allowing us to express our individuality and uniqueness as global citizens. What has come to the fore with the continued advancement of these platforms is that we are indeed a society defined by various races, cultures, religions, genders, and political beliefs from a wide array of social and economic classes. Our individual identity is as unique as our own fingerprints. However, the artificial intelligence tools and methods used to build these sites play critical roles in other facets of our society, specifically in law enforcement. As we share our pictures, our voices, and ideas on these sites, data aggregating tools are working intricately in the background, gathering our personal information and images and sharing them with public and private sector actors. In addition to these public sharing sites, law enforcement agencies also have access to some of the largest databases of our images and personal data, aggregated from sites as familiar as Instagram to more unfamiliar state-managed data sets that include surveillance videos, government-issued identifications, as well as persons' criminal employment and health records. With algorithms managing the collection, sharing, and use of our images on a large scale by both private and public actors, there has been increasing demand for better monitoring of their usage. The artificial intelligence system and personal image data sets used to build these sites have come under increased scrutiny by human rights defenders, international human rights agencies, legal analysts, and scientific researchers for their efficacy and objectivity in their use by law enforcement agencies. The concern is a valid one, as it has been argued that with increased pressure to combat forms of terrorism and migration concerns, particularly regarding the movement of refugees and asylum seekers, the use of AI and algorithmic decision-making tools may facilitate an increase in racial profiling against ethnic minorities stereotypically associated with these global concerns, that is, as we all know, Black and brown communities. With the assistance of AI and many other tools, the potential exists for algorithmic bias to occur when used in a law enforcement context, which may have far-reaching implications on the rights of individuals. As noted in the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination's General Recommendation 36, adopted in 2020, although advances in technology has increased the accuracy, effectiveness, and efficiency of the decisions and actions of law enforcement officials, there is a great risk that they may also reproduce and reinforce biases and aggravate or lead to discriminatory practices. Hence, the growing international human rights concern regarding the significant use of facial recognition software as a law enforcement tool. With any technological advancement comes significant risk. However, knowledge and awareness of this risk is what aids in building a society that is equitable, secure, and just for all. This is where media, the fourth estate, play a critical role for society. Mass media hold the responsibility of acting as a watchdog in functioning democracies, providing the public with information on the ever-evolving state policies, legislation, and practices that affect their everyday lives and basic human rights. Mass media act as a tool of advocacy, education, and public awareness, and as an objective system that forces all forms of leadership in a society to remain accountable to its citizens. In today's digital society, with the changes in the way in which citizens gain access to news and information, the media play an even more critical role in holding states accountable and transparent, and are often integral in bringing to light many of the human rights abuses being perpetuated by the state in all the corners of the world. With this in mind, we must recognize that with the advancement of the use of AI in law enforcement, there is a need to properly evaluate the benefits and cost this new technology may have on our society. Yes, policymakers, researchers, state actors, and the private sector do have the responsibility to ensure that any technology used to manage or enforce the law in public is managed properly, objectively, efficiently, and devoid of prejudice and abuse. However, it is the role of the media to, in a sense, keep these leaders honest, to support advocates and international human rights institutions and agencies in uncovering, reporting, and correcting any unjust use of it, and in making the public aware of the systems and mechanisms used by the state that may potentially have negative repercussions on their basic human rights. We therefore look to the now concerning growth of AI in law enforcement and the ways in which the continued use of this new technology, relatively new technology anyway to many, has managed to quietly threaten and erode the human rights of communities it is expected to protect. The use of facial recognition software as a law enforcement tool has presented an immediate challenge to the human rights of Black and Brown communities, who are often targeted by this form of AI, as it has increased racial profiling by law enforcement agents in these communities. As this technology is disproportionately used against Black and Brown communities, questions of its objectivity, usefulness, and purpose as a policing method comes to the fore. The United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, of which I'm a vice chair, has established General Recommendation 36 that directly addresses the use of AI, its problematic connection to racial profiling by law enforcement, and the impact it has on the human rights of citizens across the globe. Without public awareness of their human rights and the role of the state as put forward by the General Recommendation 36, the ability for citizens to question the human rights violations of state agencies and demand appropriate correction and reprieve is threatened. The media thus bear the burden of reporting these issues to the public and supporting any form of advocacy directed at the state for correcting its problematic usage. The media carry two types of burden. Firstly, they have the responsibility of informing the public of instances where state actors have impeded the human rights of citizens, thereby holding the state accountable for its actions. Secondly, the media hold the responsibility of promoting international human rights conventions and supporting the advocacy work of human rights defenders in ensuring that these norms and conventions are recognized within a state. Further, the media can ensure that A, the general public is aware of how their human rights should be protected by the state in the process of using AI technology. B, highlight instances in which these rights and international standards are abused or eroded by the state. And C, support human rights defenders in ensuring that states comply with these international standards. The computer will continue to get it wrong. but it is up to us as global citizens to correct the fault in its programming and ensure that everyone is able to enjoy his or her freedoms, rights, and security in peace. Thank you very much for having me participate in this forum.